Guys, welcome to the ELKSHAPE podcast today, live and in person here in Saskatchewan. I'm hanging out with Iron Will Bill. He's a good friend of mine. We'll get him a proper introduction today. We are going to talk about how you can beat the elk hunting learning curve, and that means two things. One, you've never killed an elk. This is your first year elk hunting. We're going to give you some hot tips on what to do and not do. Also, if you've been elk hunting and had some success but not consistent success, we're going to add a few puzzle pieces to make it make sense for you in 2025. It's time to lock in. We're talking elk hunting. Iron Will Bill, good to see you.
Good to see you, Dan. Great to have you at Bear Camp this year.
Yeah, this is a cool setup. We're Eastern Sky Guiding. You've been here how many times?
I think this is number 6 for me.
Okay, and I think I was complaining to you about a bear hunt I had a couple years back in Alberta, and it sucked. I only saw one bear, and you're like, you should go with me. I have had some good luck. So let's just get to it. What's the biggest bear you've tipped over here?
About 480 pounds. And I've seen bigger. I've seen others just that big, I would say. And, I've got ones that are about 400, but I've got 5 bears from here, and they're 4 out of 5 are big bears.
Okay, that's insane. Yeah, and then I was fortunate enough to get my biggest bear ever, which is crazy because last week I said the same thing. I just got the biggest bear I've ever killed in Alberta, and then roll over here and kill a bear that weighs 100 pounds more is quite honestly unimaginable.
Yeah, that's a giant. 492 pounds and 21 3/8-inch skull. That's just a giant bear.
Yeah, I can't wait to get him aged. But yeah, biggest bear I've ever seen in my life. Honestly, my legs were shaking when he came in, and I'm like, this isn't a whitetail. Why am I getting buck fever? But fortunately for me, he didn't like just come by real quick. He came in with a sow. He had a girlfriend. He was very distracted. I watched him for I think 10 minutes on video before I shot him. So hit him with the Iron Will wide single bevel. I went with the 150 solid, and I hit him in the back rib, and it came out the front of his chest. Kind of a perfect, just kind of gave me a quick severe quartering away, aim for the exit. He didn't go 40 yards. It was cool, and you guys are gonna have to watch that film because we definitely broke down bear anatomy. Like we used him as a tool to show people where those vitals sit. That's very eye-opening. What is your takeaway from that part?
Yeah, the lungs sit a bit back, like they start at about the crease behind the shoulder, maybe a little bit in front, but they go back to about mid-body, and I think we measured like the center of the lungs to be about 8 inches back from the crease of the shoulder. Mm-hmm. So you don't necessarily want to shoot them really tight to the shoulder. You can actually shoot in front of the lungs and heart if you're just shooting too far forward. So that's one difference from people that are used to whitetail hunting and other ungulates. Yeah,
I lost a big bear by trying to shoot him, heart shot him from a tree stand many years ago, and I put it tight to the crease and a little low like a heart shot.
Yeah.
I missed everything. That bear was back on the camera a week later.
Yep, that's the one thing I think people can run into trouble because whitetail guys, I know I was the same way on whitetails, is like close to the shoulder and just a third of the way up, go for the heart. Mm-hmm. And on a bear, I don't think the heart's right there, just a little bit back from that. So that can happen.
You have a 40-year bow hunting career. So today's episode is really for you rookie elk hunters or the guys looking to get that extra little nugget to crush that elk hunting learning curve. And so for 40 years you were bow hunting, but at some point you were like, I'm going out west. I want to hunt out west animals because you're a Wisconsin boy.
Right.
You have a 4-year degree in mechanical engineering, University of Wisconsin, top of your class. At some point you were like, I'm pulling the stakes. I'm going out west. What year was that?
In 99. Yeah, I had an offer to go work for a startup company in Colorado. So I'd grown up bow hunting, and a lot of whitetail hunters in Wisconsin. I'm from a small town where everybody bow hunts.
Yeah,
everybody hunts, and it was just it's just what men do around there. You're gonna hunt, and you're gonna fish, and so. But that elk hunting in the mountains was kind of the dream hunt for everybody. I grew up hearing about a guy that might go out west elk hunting, and so I had the itch to do it. When I got the job offer, I'm like, I'm gonna go hunt in the mountains here, and but really everything. And I became a pretty good whitetail bow hunter. I could target a big buck and hunt real hard and get him that year. And I felt like, I felt pretty confident as a bow hunter after that. But going out moving out west, starting to elk hunt. I really didn't have any mentors either.
None.
Went to work for a startup company in Boulder. 0 hunters there.
Yeah.
We grew to over 100 people at the company. I was the only hunter there. So, I didn't have any. I thought, the first day at work, I went to lunch with a bunch of engineers. I'm like, where do you guys elk hunt? They're like, oh, we don't hunt. I'm like, well, what? You don't hunt? Anyway, quite a learning curve there. And because in whitetail, you don't want to be aggressive at all. If you see a whitetail, you don't move at all. If you make a little move on it and it's 200 yards away, it's probably going to see you and bust out of there. So a lot of what I learned about whitetail hunting didn't apply very well to elk hunting. I just wasn't aggressive enough, I'd say, for years. And I might get into like good sign of where an elk is at and just like set up a stand and hunt that sign. Well,
you whitetail hunted elk?
I whitetail hunted elk.
Okay.
And I wasn't usually carrying stands in, but I was like, this is a good area. I'm just going to sit here. So I was trying to, hunt elk like you would a whitetail.
Yeah.
And, and it took me years to kind of figure it out and totally change my strategy and start to become a lot more successful with it.
Like, how many years did it take you to archery kill an elk?
Yeah, it took me 5 years to get a shot on a bull. And, and that's one where I hit the shoulder blade and the arrow didn't penetrate and that elk ran away.
What were you using on your first? What was your setup?
It was a 3-blade, kind of piece of junk, broadhead.
Nice.
And that's really what, so I'd worked really hard for 5 years to get better at elk hunting, finally get that shot at the first big bull, and then to see it. And, I was super nervous on the shot and just shot a little bit forward, hit the scap there, it looked like. But that whole arrow was sticking out of the bull. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, I was like 1 inch from having, missing that scap and making a beautiful shot. Or if I just had a broadhead that would have got through that shoulder blade, this would be a dead bull.
And that was the birth of Iron Will Outfitters?
That was, yeah.
Interesting.
So I bought a bunch of, started reading all the research I could find, bought a bunch of broadheads, started doing my own testing, getting cow parts, scapulas, whatever. Started 2 years of intense testing, reading articles. And then what I kind of came to realize is that, man, all these are really kind of junk. The materials manufacturing process are all going for low-cost manufacturing. Mm-hmm. And I know I can engineer something better than this. And it started a 7-year process of design, building, iterating on it. And that's what led to Iron Will.
When did you shoot your first elk with your broadhead?
It was a few years after that.
Really?
After I started, yeah. And and that was the ultimate,
That's got to be special.
I got better at elk hunting. I started training like I was an Olympic athlete. I started, endurance trainer, and asking, like, I want to be able to hike mountains.
Yep.
Better. I thought I was fit. I was a wrestler and in sports.
You went and got a trainer.
Yeah. And
that's awesome, dude.
Well, I worked at a corporation that had a big fitness center, and they had 3 personal trainers there.
Perfect.
But I went to them and said, I want you to design a workout routine for me for strength training. But then I also, they would have people come in and give seminars, and one was an endurance trainer for mountain bikers and runners and things like that. It's like, I want you to put a program together for me to do this. And he looked at what I was doing, and he says, well, you got to add about 300 minutes of cardio a week.
Oh, my gosh.
To what you're doing. Like, really? Another 5 hours of cardio? It's like, yeah, you got to get your base up there for hiking mountains like this. So I bought a road. I lived 40 miles from work at the time. I bought a road bike, and I was biking to work. 40 miles, 2.5 hours, one way.
You're getting your minutes in now.
A couple times a week I was doing that. And, I just started, hiking mountains. I started doing elevation training. I'd go up into high elevation and do a hike for so many hours, weeks before the hunt. But
what is the psychology of, like, I know we're talking about rookie elk hunting and elk hunting learning curves, but I think we got to take a step back and address your psychology, how you're wired. That's not normal. Was it just the dominoes were falling as far as your obsession with failure? And you're like, what can I do these other 11 months out of the year to make it so that I have more success? Like, but what is your psychology behind all this? Like, are you just a really driven guy? Were you just obsessed with elk hunting?
I don't. I mean, I don't take failure well,
Okay.
and I love hunting. And it came to the point where I thought I'm either going to get way better at this or quit, because this is crushing me to want something, this bad and to not be successful at it.
I feel you.
And so, and you don't have to get to the obsessed level I was, but just to learn more about elk and their behavior and what they were doing, and how, learning a lot more about elk to make the right decisions when you see elk is a big part of it. And I don't know how you can teach somebody that. Is experience in the woods. If you got a mentor you can go hunting with, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You can cut that learning curve a lot. But, time in the woods observing elk is going to be part of it. Just understanding. And really a lot of it's just not making the wrong decisions on things. I'd screwed up every way you could.
Yeah.
And so you learn from that, and you learn, what you got to do better the next time. But
what are some of the more obvious decisions that you made that were poor decisions in the beginning? I mean, we're just trying to talk to these guys that are just probably, I always say it's not a mistake until you do it twice.
Yeah.
But there are things I still screw up to this day that I know better, right?
Yeah.
Zig when you're supposed to zag, whatever. What are the most common ones that you were making that you made behavioral adjustments, I should say, in your decision?
Yeah. Well, first of them, I'd say first off, for somebody coming, from the Midwest or wherever to do their first elk hunt, don't hunt elk where they're not at. Don't on Google Earth find a cool basin to camp in and hike in and see some elk sign and think, wow, this is an awesome place. I'm just going to sit up here and hunt it for a week. Well, even if the elk are there after a couple days of camping in a basin, there's probably going to, get wind of where you've been hiking around or whatever. They're probably going to be gone, in a couple of days anyway. So don't just commit to a spot and hunt it for 7 to 10 days if there's not elk there.
Guilty. What else?
Yeah.
You said obviously being pretty passive, kind of whitetail tactics, setting up in areas that had good sign, trying to ambush elk. I mean, that is a productive way to go, but I think you need a ton of time to be able to make that work for you. So that may not work if you have a limited. A lot of guys take 10 days off for an elk hunt, but then they have like a day on both sides of driving, maybe some time trying to find a camp, maybe somewhere in the week they got to run to town to get more ice or supply. Like, is it really 10 days of hunting, or is it more like 7? And then are you splitting caller shooter duties with somebody? Well, then that's really like 3 or 4 days that you actually have. So like, time's pretty valuable commodity. I don't know if you want to spend all your time ambushing elk, sneaking around in the elk woods,
Well, you got to find the elk first. You don't want to set up to do an ambush where there's old sign, So that'd be one thing I did wrong, is that I just find a good looking place and I'd like set up the ambush like you would on a whitetail. Where I'm from, if there's a woods and there's a trail through it, you can set up a stand on it and you can see a deer go by.
Yeah.
That's not the case with elk. They maybe were there. They were there last week, but they might be a couple miles away.
Yeah.
Right now. So, put on the miles, find the elk, and then you start hunting the elk. So those are a couple things that were a problem. Wind. Learn thermals, understand wind, and that's going to kill you. Don't. I know I'd blow things out once in a while. I'm like, oh, I see a bull, I got to go after it. The wind's not right, but I'd push it anyways. You're never going to beat their nose. So if you know the wind's bad, don't go.
And I don't think you'll ever truly understand the minutia of the wind. There's some universal truths to wind when you're elk hunting, but honestly, man, there's places like Marty hunts, and it's like his honey hole, and it's his honey hole because he's learned the nuance of what the wind does there. And I could show up there and I could be like, oh, I know what the wind's going to do, and I could be completely wrong. I didn't know that it sucked through that saddle and swirled over there. Some guys have told me before, like, this is an old-time trick, like, if you ever find, like, a Mylar balloon in the woods and it's a north-facing area, like, chances are, like, the elk are going to bed there because that's how that balloon got there. The wind worked and sucked it to there. Well, the elk know where to dodge Mylar balloons because that is where they can be safe and bed up for the day. Like, there's little nuance, like, yeah, perpendicular, up and down thermals, mornings and evenings. I could buy that. Not always, but usually.
Yeah.
But there's places where the wind doesn't switch till 11. There's places where wind switches at 8. Then you have prevailing. You have fronts. You have those darn white, big, puffy clouds. Guys, you're gonna get your teeth kicked in until you figure out the minutia of a particular area. There are areas that I've never figured out the minutia, and there are areas where I have figured out to not hunt bedded elk there because there's no approach where the wind doesn't eventually screw me, and you just got to hunt the fringe and back out. So you just got to give yourself some grace with the wind. It's not a perfect science, I would say. Would you agree with that?
Yep, definitely. But, keep checking it as you're going in because it's always changing, always swirling. There's so many times I'm like so close to a bull and you feel a little wind on the back of your neck and it blows out. Yeah. Why didn't you just give me 30 more seconds?
30 more seconds. And that's usually when it swirls, right when you're in striking distance.
Right.
When we talk about shot selection, shot placement, we've had you on the pod before. I've made so much content about this stuff, but I think it's always safe to revisit a couple things. The term vital V, I didn't hear that term until I think I saw some Ashby stuff, maybe the Ranch Fairy Troy talking about it or whatever, but it's the pocket behind the shoulder that kind of makes a V. And you saw that video we did with Joel where we kind of had a real elk and we were just kept the shoulder attached but flipped it over.
Yeah.
And we're just kind of trying to show like, hey, in the V closest to that pocket is not bone, but it's meat. It's some muscle. It's
right. So the bones make a V there. That shoulder, scap, the shoulder bone, and then the leg bone there. That makes that V. And so the crease, you can shoot in front of that crease. And the biggest bull I ever shot, the photo I showed you this morning.
Yeah.
That was a couple inches in front of the crease, and that was a giant-bodied bull.
Yep.
And looking at how he went down in 5 seconds.
Yep.
So that's the spot that's going to kill them quickly. Front of the lungs, top of the heart, front of the lungs. That's where that's at, is in there. So, shooting close to that, that crease or a little in front, and if a bull's close to me and I know I can pinpoint, put it in front of the crease, right into that spot, because they're going down fast.
In seconds.
They're dead in seconds in sight. I mean, that's ideal.
And you actually don't need a pass-through. You just need to get into the cavity. I was so obsessed with pass-throughs for the longest time, but after really looking at that dead elk with all the lungs attached, I was like, okay, I got to get through ribs, or I got to get through this meat, or even hit through a scap. That's fine if I'm close enough to hit into the lungs, which are really, there's a lot of lung volume in the front of the chest.
There is.
And it actually tapers out the further you go away from the V.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes at an angle because they're lobes. And yes, they inflate, deflate, but realistically, margin of error, I think you got to aim really tight to the shoulder on elk. And I don't think you should necessarily do that with something that's not going to penetrate.
Yeah, that's my thinking on it. Aim tight to that crease there, or tight to the shoulder or into the shoulder for the quickest kill. Use a broadhead that's going to get through there. If you do hit scapula, use a broadhead that's going to get through it. That's become my theory on things over the years. Because I think if you aim back from that shoulder because you're worried about it, you're shooting a broadhead that's expandable or something like that. Aiming back from that shoulder, I think you really risk hitting a gut shot, and you don't want that. I mean, that animal's going to die, but it could take 12, 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the ideal thing to do is shoot them where they're going to die the fastest, and have a broadhead that can penetrate through and get there.
And I love anything slightly to massively quartering away. And when you think about that, you're going to be going through a lot of stuff. Like you could be hitting it, going in the back of the ribs. Maybe it's the morning. Maybe the bull's got several pounds of hay in his stomach that you got to go through as well. Well, people shoot arrows into hay bales. Why? Because it stops your arrow and you can pull it out.
Right.
Well, now you got a hay bale. You got to go through a rib and you got to go through a lot of body cavity. I think ultimately penetration is going to be king to get with elk and shot selection, shot angles, Yeah,
the first bull I ever killed was a steep quartering away, and it actually cut the meat of the hind quarter on the way in and poked out the brisket. The broadhead poked out the brisket. So it went through, I don't know, what is that?
Feet.
5.5 feet, 5 feet of elk, something
Feet
like
of elk.
that.
Yeah.
And that's actually, and Eric was along on that
Oh,
hunt,
cool.
and he saw that broadhead sticking out, and he just seen me kill. And that happened to be the same broadhead. He saw me shoot a cow elk at 54 yards, zip through and stuck into the sand on their side of her. And I ended up grabbing that same one to shoot my bull, and he saw it sticking out there. He's like, "What is this broadhead you're using?" I'm like, "That's just one I've been designing." He's like, "That penetration is incredible. Why aren't you starting a business?" And really, I was really making it for myself until then.
Yeah.
And I felt like I achieved what I wanted with this broadhead. The penetration has been incredible.
That's powerful. Wow.
And I'm like, well, and I was supplying it to a couple of friends and my brothers, and they're hunting with it. And I was building 200 broadheads and sharpening them by hand, doing the finishing sharpening by hand each
Holy
year
crap.
at that point. And I'm like, I should probably tool this up, because I've been a product development engineer, but very tight to manufacturing and manufacturing development over the years too. And I know that when you can scale up a process and really refine the process of grinding, honing, all the stuff we do on this, the heat treatment, take it. I've been developing products to the highest performance level, and I want to do that on this broadhead.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, if I take it to market that way, I can make it even better, and I'll have an unlimited supply of broadheads for myself, right?
Yep.
And my buddies. And I think people are going to like this. People are going to be more successful. I can help people with this too. And to be honest, I never thought it would take off as a business. I thought it'd be a little side hustle.
Little side hustle. Now it's what you do for.
Because I sell them. I'm like, I got to sell this 3 for $100.
Yeah.
Just to make a little bit of money on this initially. And I didn't think it would take off like it did. But I think people really started using it, were blown away, and they tell their buddies about it. Like, this does really perform better, and it's worth the cost.
I remember when I got my first one from you guys. It was, I think Eric got a hold of me, and it was in a wooden box.
Yeah.
And it had your logo stamp pressed on it. Pull it out, and I was like, wait, this one broadhead costs whatever it does? I was like, holy shit, I got to, save this. This is, because at the time, I think you could get, pretty crappy broadheads for $15, 3.
Right.
You know. Now I think the going rate for a decent broadhead is probably at least $50 to $60 for 3, at least. And obviously, people have been willing to invest in your product at a higher, a 3-digit price point.
Right.
And know that, it's got a warranty and that they can resharpen it and, reuse it. You may not always find your broadhead after the shot, or it may go into something that, that broadhead's done. You got to
to me, it's a no-brainer on elk hunting. All the effort and cost you put into an elk hunt to try and save $15 on a broadhead or something is ridiculous.
So
use a high-quality head for sure.
I've shot. I finally shot a bull last year with the iron wheel wide. It was a New Mexico bull. He died in sight, and then every elk I've ever shot with the. I've never shot an elk with your standard solid double bevel. I just never have. I've only shot them with your single bevel. So this is a standard single bevel. Solid.
Yep. Yeah, single bevel with bleeders.
The whole thing.
Yep, that's our 125 grain.
I like this one. This is what will be in my quiver this year, and they fly great to triple-digit distances. No, I'm not going to shoot elk that far, but I like to make sure that they do shoot that far. And I think I've shot 6 elk with this one.
Nice.
And they've all gone. I've never had to look for blood because I've seen them go down. That's always been some chatter online. It's like the iron wheels don't create enough wound channel, which is false. These literally corkscrew their way through. The entry can be kind of a square hole, usually, but they can also be clean cut. And if you're worried about that, you have options for the wide. Do you have any wides here?
Yeah, here's a.
So you can kind of see the difference. And that's just that's what I shot the bear here with the solid version of this.
Yeah.
Giant entry exit.
How was the blood? How was the blood trail on that one?
Murder scene. And it's coming out the front. So, and
I think with our broadheads, they're so sharp, and they hold that edge through the hide and ribs and whatever, that they are going to cut everything at least. So for whatever you pass through, you have the best chance of slicing all the vessels, not pushing them aside. So I think it's going to maximize the amount it's going to bleed for that, size cut. Now,
and I don't think
it might not all come out. Whether it comes out on the ground is kind of depending on shot placement and exit hole location, all that kind of stuff.
I also think something to consider is that because they're so sharp and it's such a clean cut. Like if you nick yourself and you're like, did I nick myself? And oh, I did. I'm bleeding now. Like to me, that's what's happening to these animals.
Yeah.
And so like I would say all of them that I've seen go down in sight, literally didn't know that they were shot.
Yeah.
Have you experienced that?
Yeah, a lot. And we've had a lot of customers say that too. I thought I missed it. And I thought I've missed elk too because it zips through so quick. And yeah, they don't react so it cuts through so quick and with minimal force.
Minimal force. That's the key.
It's probably like a little poke in the side. Like what was that? And you're right. A lot of times they just don't go that far. If they don't know you're there, didn't see you, don't know what happened, often they're just going a little ways and stopping. Like what was that? Boom. And so, whereas a lot of heads that take a lot of force to enter, even like a 3-blade chisel point, that takes a lot of force to get through that hide.
I hit a scab last year with a 3-blade chisel point and did not break through.
Yeah.
And so I'm just telling you, like, it's just more force to get through 3 blades.
There isn't, and they might get through, but they might not because it just does take more force.
Yep.
For sure.
And that same broadhead I've used and gotten through at least 2 scaps before, but so I'm 2 for 3. You know what I mean? And it hurts really bad to lose an animal and whatever.
That's exactly what happened to me and why I started, designing broadheads.
Well, it's a compelling story. Your origin story is really cool. That you're just basically like an engineer who rolled up his sleeves, didn't have dollar signs in your eyes at all. You were like just trying to be more successful.
I had a good job. I had 3 kids in college at the time. I wasn't really looking to start a company, but the way it took off and how much I just loved engineering things that I'm totally passionate about.
Yes, you are.
I just loved it. I couldn't wait to get up each day and start working on developing the stuff and testing it and stuff like that. So,
well, how long has Iron Will Outfitters been in business?
We formed a company in 2016 and really started selling product 2017. So 8 years. So
8 years later, you guys have a new system that you can buy on your website. I do want to give you a chance to plug that because obviously you've done and you have personally sponsored studies at the University of Colorado with the engineering teams. So you're fitting the bill and getting the grants and getting all the engineers to test fluid. What do you guys call it? Fluid dynamic modeling. Okay.
Or CFD, computational fluid dynamics.
Whatever that means. Lift. Which Riley will know more about lift because he's a pilot, but like lift, drag, all this stuff, what's going on at the vein level. I don't want to bore our listeners with that, but I do want to talk about the results. The results.
I just a couple minutes on it is that I've been a adjunct instructor of mechanical engineering at the University of Colorado for about 10, 12 years now.
Okay.
And I've been one of the faculty directors for the senior design project class from mechanical engineering.
Okay.
So, and I did it just because I was recruiting and hiring engineers for the companies I worked for, and I didn't think the colleges, especially CU Boulder, I'll say because I don't think anyone will listen to this. We're doing a great job of getting engineers ready. I mean, they had the school smarts, but they didn't understand when you don't have all the information given to you, how do you figure it out? How do you apply engineering, solve the problems, develop a product? Do as much analysis as you can. So, I'd come in and lead a team of 6, 7 engineers.
Okay.
They'd graduate in mechanical engineering at the end, but I'd teach them how to design, develop a product from a blank sheet of paper. And I enjoyed it. It was kind of giving back a little bit, and I got just too busy with my company to keep doing it. I tried to quit my job a few times. They're like, Bill, we really want you to keep coming back. I'm like, I don't have time for it, but if you really need me, I will. And they're like, great, here's the contract, come back in this year. So, and then the last 3 years, I'm like, guys, I really can't do it unless you let me sponsor my own projects and direct a team.
Attaboy.
Direct a team of what I want to do, which is related to bow hunting.
I love it, man.
It's going to be.
You got your own lab.
It's going to be, we're going to have broadheads, we're going to have arrows, we're going to look at arrow flight, penetration. This is hunting stuff. And, Boulder's not a big hunting community, right? It's an anti-hunting community in general. So I didn't know if they'd go for it, but they're like, yeah, we want you back. And they've been really accepting to it. And I think that's pretty cool too, because all those teams I had for 10 years, 0 hunters, 0 people from Colorado even, but they're all from, California, East Coast, wherever. So that was good too to kind of mentor and say, they knew I was a hunter. I was very upfront with it.
Yeah.
And everything, but they respected me as a a mechanical engineer that
Yep.
had 65 patents and developed all these products.
Mm-hmm.
And so they got to think, oh, you can have a hunter that's, here's a very intelligent guy that's also a hunter. Because I'd fight that too, like at my company. They're like, man, you don't seem like the typical hunter. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, well, you're
Thank you.
smart.
You're doing the gospel.
And I'm like,
doing the good work for us.
You're
man.
lucky we're at work right now, or like throw you in a headlock.
Exactly.
But I'd say you're lucky for you. Your ancestors were smart and they hunted for food, and that's why you're here.
Write that down. That's
So,
well said.
Anyways, there's always kind of a battle of that. Is like, no, a hunter, an elk hunter, a mountain hunter, you are an intelligent, highly fit, athlete to do this. Anyway, that's a side note.
But I love that you were able to take that adjunct position, and honestly, you had the keys to the castle. Like, guys, I'll stick around. However, we're going to manipulate the curriculum to suit my fancy, which helps us as bow hunters to read in. And you offer a lot of the studies results on your website.
We do, there's papers
for free.
on there.
Like, there's a guy in Australia where if you want to like read any of his research, you got to buy it. And you're out here doing all the stuff and offering up for free. I think that's something people overlook. So I want to say thank you for that. That's pretty cool. And Riley and I just went down to Easton for a quick little thing that James Yates was doing. I really don't know what exactly we was tested or what we did yet. We were there more to cover some media. It'll be interesting to see what they come out with, but I don't think they had the setup that you did at the university. I know you weren't there, but I'm just going to tell you, like, they didn't have all the different stuff that you were able to do. So it'd be interesting to compare and contrast those studies when they come out. We'll have to get your opinion. I think we'll do another pod. Moving on, this is the arrow that you're selling this year. Looks like you teamed up with Victory. Tell me about this. That's a RIP TKO?
Yeah, so just kind of a quick results of the study. We did, so the fluid dynamic modeling was a computer model of the airflow over the arrow, the broadhead, and the vanes. And the reason I did that, there's not a lot of research out there there is on target archery with field points on the front, but there really wasn't
nothing. Yeah.
It really wasn't with broadheads on the front. The aerodynamics are so different.
Yes.
And that's what I studied. That's what we studied for 2 years was aero flight with broadheads on it, many different vanes in the industry, which ones would create, we looked at drag in the fluid dynamic modeling, and then we looked at it with, high-speed cameras, a shooting machine, and really a lot of stuff that James is doing right now is the things I was doing there was we were first modeling it in the computer, which he's not doing. He's just doing he did 2 days of shooting it to look at velocity drop to get drag, which is what we did too. And then take a bow out of tune and look and see how close the field points hit to the broadheads, which is what I was doing the last 3 years here too. And so what that will do when the bow's out of tune and the arrow comes off, we'll just show it up like that. They say tail down, airflow across the front creates a lift, which is a perpendicular force to the airflow.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to push the tip up, but that airflow across the vanes will also create a lift here, and it'll create this restoring torque. So torque is just force times distance. So in a lot of articles you'll read that we put on there, it talks about restoring torque, which vanes had the most restoring torque with broadheads.
Which is just correction.
It's correction. It's like if it comes out of your bow, cocked a little bit, arrow, say tail left, how quickly is that going to get back to straight and hit the target? Because nobody's perfect at bow tuning, right?
Yeah.
Some people are better than others, but you're never hitting perfection. And what I wanted to see is, okay, with a bow a little bit out of tune, which vanes would make it so it doesn't matter.
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness there. And what the results from that study, we saw that vane height had the biggest factor on that restoring torque. So I recommend taller vanes, half-inch taller. And then year 2 of the study.
What are those, 0.58 or?
These are 0.57.
0.57?
Yeah. So some of the taller vanes in the industry are 0.55 to 0.58. Those probably do the best job.
I typically run taller vanes myself. I know they're a little louder, but I just will take the forgiveness over the sound.
Yeah. So year 2, we really dug into the sound. And
oh, you did?
Yeah. I don't think that's as important as some people do, but I'm not going to argue that a quieter arrow would be better. So why not? Why not do it, right? So the higher profile stabilizes the best. That's why I recommend higher profile. But what we saw is that some vanes were much quieter than others. Like the Max Stealth is a very quiet vane.
Obviously, yeah.
Right? And so we looked at that's where the modeling really came in. We could see the airflow over these different veins, where the flow was staying attached to the vein and where it was just creating these eddies, these little turbulence. And we can model sound, like sound amplitude off of eddies. I can't tell you that's going to be super accurate, but what we can see is like, where's their high and low pressure, where's the flow detaching, and it seemed to correspond with the sound levels, because we had microphones downrange shooting over the microphones.
Yeah.
And we were analyzing the sound coming off of that, the frequency content, the amplitude. We had MATLAB. We were doing a lot of data crunching on all this, a lot of engineering,
definitely
high level engineering there. And what we realized, and we came up with this vein from year 2 of the modeling.
Okay.
So that's a new vein profile, which it's still just as tall at 0.57, but it's longer. It's 2.5 inches. So those short, like 2-inch high profile are louder.
Yes.
In general, right? A shield cut is louder in general.
And it's just this little guy, when a shield, it seems like this guy grabs more, makes more sound. Is that where they...
Yeah, if there's a sharper point here,
Yeah.
or a shield cut just cuts it away,
Yep.
so that the airflow can't really stay attached.
Yeah.
It just creates eddies right there.
Yep.
That's louder. So what we saw is that having this longer lead in front would keep that flow attached, the airflow attached. And then having this ramp back also kept the flow attached, so less eddies in there.
Did you guys find that 4 veins was overkill on some of your testing? Like, for example, when I was at Easton doing, like, I was observing, it seemed like some of the chatter was like, again, I haven't seen the data, but like they tested a lot of expandables, and it was like 4 veins is just unnecessary. Like 3 is sufficient for steering this expandable field point type thing. Were you guys able to see anything like that? Or because I noticed you don't got 4 veins on your arrow.
Right. We did that through modeling, and I've done that through a little bit of testing. And to tell you the truth, I'm not 100% confident in my answer here.
Okay.
But I would say that I find that 3 veins is more efficient than 4 for what a vein is supposed to do, which is really create enough lift to bring your arrow back on course quickly with broadheads on the front, while minimizing drag, wind drift, sound. Okay. So I think the most efficient thing there is 3 higher profile veins. A bit longer to make them not as loud. But 3 does a great job of stabilizing the broadheads without adding more drag and wind drift, because wind drift is primarily from inline drag.
Okay.
So if you want to, a Western hunter, you want to minimize wind drift.
Sure.
Add mass, reduce drag. That's how you do it. Heavier arrows with less drag are going to have less wind drift. Okay. That's really what it comes down to. So, and I find if you add a 4th vein, you're going to add, 33% more drag there, right? Yep. Now you get a little more restoring torque, but is it worth that trade-off? If you're not shooting that far, 40 yard and under whitetail hunter, I don't really see a problem with it at all.
That makes sense.
Yeah. A little more drag.
And that's the majority of archery. I hate to tell everybody this, including you, Mr. Western elk hunter, myself. We are the minority.
Yeah,
the
I saw some
archers
stats
are
like 85% of bow hunters are whitetail hunters.
The end.
And maybe 30% are elk hunters. Maybe they do both, but most guys are just whitetail hunters.
So keep that in mind when you're listening to Bill talking. It's like, hey man, if you're just a whitetail hunter, that's great. Like, this is not applicable. Next question. What about stiffness? Does that matter?
Yeah, good question. So, and I worked with Nick at AAE in year 1, and he gave me different materials that we laser cut.
Okay.
And then year 2, we got from all the vein, or a number of the vein companies gave us material to laser cut, and we tested different ones. So what we saw, what was interesting, is we used like his trad vein material, which is very flexible. Mm-hmm. And when you do a higher profile vein that's very flexible, it would just flutter. You could hear the thing buzz. And we got high-speed video of this thing like...
Yeah, I don't want that.
So that's no good. You need a certain stiffness to get rid of fluttering.
What about too stiff? Is that a problem in your studies and observations?
I wouldn't say that it is, although it seemed like it might get a little louder when it was too stiff, is what we saw.
Okay.
So that hybrid hunter vein that we just came out with the first year, which was the Max Hunter, just in a different material, we saw it was actually just a little bit quieter. And I think what that little bit of flex would relieve some pressure And I think these high pressure waves coming off those high pressure points then causing these eddies would do it. So there might be kind of an optimal stiffness. Now, I'm not going to say don't use a stiff vane because I think a stiff vane in general is good.
Yeah.
But we end up using this material on our vane, which is the Q2I material. It's stiffer. It's more has more dampening to it. It seems every profile we tested with this was quiet. So and it's pretty durable. So anyway, that's why we came up with this vane. As far as quietness too, we did 10 rounds of sound testing in different conditions, indoors, outdoors, compared it to the other vanes on the market, and we were as quiet or quieter than the Max Stealth in the 10 rounds.
Oh.
And that's the industry best.
That's like the standard.
Yeah, I didn't know if I could get a a vane that had great stability and accuracy and still be one of the quietest.
One thing I'm going to give you guys some street cred on is when I fletched up 2 dozen with this 2.5. That has got the best bottom surface for adhesion out of any vane I've ever done. So I don't know if that was part of your design, but that was those are fun to actually do yourself.
They've got this dual polymer, technology where the vane base is a different material.
Mm-hmm.
So the base is optimized for bonding.
It's great for adhesion. And then you're working with Victory on the RIP TKO, which is a pretty light GPI arrow. Those are 250 spine. What's the GPI on that?
Yeah, it's 8.9.
For a 250 spine?
Yeah.
Damn.
And that's really why, I like Axis arrows. We still do arrow builds with Axis arrows too. But for me, in a 300 spine, that weight is pretty good for the Axis. But when I go to the 260 spine in their case, it's a bit heavy. I'm up around 550. If I want to shoot a lighted knock and have 175 up front, it gets pretty heavy for me. So I've been looking at the different arrows available out there. There's a lot of lighter arrows coming out each year, and looking at kind of strength to weight ratio. We have an Instron machine where I can crush the arrows, in line. I can also do a 3-point bending and look at the bending strength to break them.
Have you guys put any content out on that?
Not really. A little clip.
You guys should maybe do some more. That would be really interesting to see. So how's the strength to weight ratio on the rips?
This is the best I found.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's why I went with it, because I really wanted a 250 spine. In the arrows I shoot, I'm shooting about 200 grains up front.
Okay.
With a 250 spine, because I'm 75-pound draw, 30-inch draw, 75-pound bow.
They'll put you just over 500?
This is 520. Yeah,
okay.
520. It's going 285 feet per second. And
sweet spot.
I was also testing another, it'd be 25, one that was right at about 500 grains. I should know the numbers off this. I think it was 485 grains going 295 feet per second.
Okay.
Okay, and I compared those two because I could get broadheads and fly grade out of both of them. Which one should I do? And I just kind of, I did all the math on it on, wind drift, penetration. This is, mathematically, but it should show that I get a few % more penetration for that more retained momentum out there. I would get, I think it was 7%. There's less wind drift because of the mass to it. Okay, and it's going a little bit slower. So a little bit slower, heavier arrow. There's less drag and more mass. It's going to have less wind drift.
Yep.
Wind drift's pretty important to me. In the mountains,
especially out west.
Yeah. So that's why. So I like the speed. I like shooting my bow and having the arrow smack it, and people are saying, "Damn, that arrow went fast." I'm like, "Yeah." I was shooting tack with that one going 295 feet per second. I'm like, "Yeah, that is pretty cool." But as I really looked at the analysis of the two comparison, I decided to go with a 520 for hunting. It's 285 feet per second.
I think you're fine.
It's
Guys
screaming.
get so caught up in speed. 285 is so fast and so easy to tune.
Yeah.
Another 10 feet a second can get a little trickier. Guys, I hope you're enjoying our Arrow Geek Out session. When we come back from break, we're going to break down Bill's, I don't know if I've never seen this film, but he's got a film that Marty put together that we're going to watch right now. And we're going to do like reaction and behind the scenes director cut style. That's going to be awesome. So we'll come back and we'll break down this elk hunt and then we'll call it a pod. Guys, blackovis.com carries just about everything under the sun. I personally shop there for a lot of my backcountry needs, including freeze-dried meals.
If you ever make an order, you'll realize how fast their shipping is and their customer service is on point. If you make a mistake on your order, the wrong size, they'll easily get you a return label and get you squared away. Also, if you're looking for custom arrows, I mean, you want to do real bougie builds or something basic, they got you. They can cut your arrows to whatever length, add whatever components, and put whatever arrow vein configuration you want. If you use the discount code dialed25 at checkout on Arrow ID, it'll get you the lightning service and those arrows will be at your doorstep. So if you're going to do some shopping, please check out blackovis.com. Throw in the discount code ELKSHAPE. It'll save you 10%. Born Primitive Outdoor is the clothing we wear, not only in the gym, but more importantly, out in the field. My favorite pant is their most affordable. It's the Terrain. My second favorite is the Frontier Light. It's a very quiet, performance-based material that has four-way stretch, articulated knees, and performs well. It has ventilation. I also wear the Ridgeline base layers, their mid layers, the Quiver, as well as their Puffy, the Tundra Light, and Heavy. They also have wind stopper jackets, and their rain gear is the only rain gear that I know that has four-way stretch. It's all performance-driven. It's not camouflage. It is, in my opinion, the best. Use our discount code ELKSHAPE to save some loot and to support us. Check out bornprimitiveoutdoor.com. Let's talk about trail camology. I'm a huge fan of trail cams kind of in the off season, and I typically like the DS4K non-cell to leave soaking for a year so that when I do finally hike in there to come and get it, that I have a year's worth of intel, not only when the animals arrive in the spring, but when they leave, when winter starts to hit pretty hard, how many predators are in the area, the animal densities, trophy potential, as well as hunting pressure. The cellulars are awesome too, where legal, and get a dual SIM, so AT&T and Verizon, so that you can get transmissions regardless of the towers. The Command app, super easy to operate. Stealth Cam is my favorite, especially the DS4K. Head over to their website and let them know that ELKSHAPE sent you. Let's talk about Marsupial's chest packs. That's what they're known for. I do run their hip quiver, and I also have their soft bow case and some other things, but their chest pack, I like the fully enclosed to keep debris and brush out of my binoculars. My optic clear and shiny. It is magnetic. It does not interfere with compasses or anything like that on your phone. This is made in the States here in Arizona. Jim Graham founded this company several years ago, and it's blown up because it is the best on the market. We don't have a discount code, but they definitely support ELKSHAPE, and we ask that you support them because they do make the best chest pack on the market with awesome accessories. I would load up with a rangefinder pouch on your right side if you're right-handed, and a small pocket for any accessory gears that you can run. You can put a ton of gear in there. It fits well. I like the enclosed version the best because it keeps the brush and debris out of my glass, and the magnets do not interfere with my compass. Check out Marsupial gear today.
Okay, I'm kind of excited to watch this, Bill. So give everybody kind of a quick little snapshot of what we're about to watch.
Yeah, this is a wilderness area in Colorado. It's a great area, kind of limited draw, and I got an opportunity to go hunt it. And we're back 11 miles in this basin. No, we didn't see any other hunters back there. It's just a pretty incredible hunt.
11-mile buy-in?
It's 11 miles back.
How heavy
from
is your
trailhead.
pack with all your gear?
It's about 55 pounds.
How many days can you realistically put in there before you got to come out?
I don't remember exactly what we did, but I think we were doing 5-6 days was the plan, and if we don't get one in 5-6 days, we'll bail out, restock, come back in.
So you can kind of leave some gear in, and then how do
Yeah.
you pick where to camp where you know you're close to the elk but you're not screwing up the elk? I think I get that question a ton.
Yeah, good question. And it varies on the area. I know there's one area that I hunt. It's an over-the-counter hunt, wilderness area, and I always camp in one basin and then hike up and over the top 1,200 feet. So I start every day with this big hike up and over.
Good morning.
But I found out that's the only way not to blow elk out of the next basin over where they like to hang out. Because if I camp in there, even if I camp down low, I just feel like within a few days the elk are gone. Because there's always going to be a thermal. There's always going to be some wind going around, or I'm walking around too much. I'll blow them out. But if I go camp in the next basin, I'm good.
Roll the footage. Let's see it, Marty. And we got Marty helping us out. Marty, your last name's Smith. Look him up. He's a big deal. Hey, did you film this, Marty? Okay, so Marty filmed it.
Yeah, so just the two of us were in here, myself and then and Marty filming.
Okay. Actually, I think, Marty, can you control your laptop from right there the whole time? Okay. Yep. Got that slow-mo.
Yeah, nice creek running through the bottom here.
Is that liquid sunshine?
It is.
Hiking in here. It's been sunny, rainy, sunny, back and forth, but overall pretty good weather. We are about almost 12,000 feet right now, up over the top, and then we're dropping in about 1,400 feet, so we'll be 11 miles back from the trail, from the truck, from the trailhead when we get there, so should be a good spot. Looking forward to it.
On a nerdy cinematic note, I like his color correction he did on this. Good color, Marty. That's gimbal. This is how I watch stuff. I watch it from
Yeah.
Marty's perspective.
So we see a group of elk, I don't know, maybe a dozen or so, coming down through the burn timber on the other side. There's a few in the bottom of the creek already getting a drink. A couple little bulls. I don't see any big bulls. Don't really want to spook them, but the place I want to get to is another mile or more where I really want to set up camp.
So it's a good area. If I don't mind blowing out bulls to get to the spot I want
What's
to
the
hunt.
date on this, man?
Bust 'em.
Like, is this second week, third week?
This is the day before opener.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last time was about 2 miles up from here, so that's where the big bulls were hanging out. So that's where we're gonna head to.
And I've hunted this once before, and I've scouted a few times, so I kind of know.
That's nice to
know the
have
area.
boots on.
And there's a burn area kind of mixed in, which is nice. You have areas of nice grass where they're going to go feed, and you can
Yep.
see them.
Yep.
There's dark timber for them to bail into.
Let's do it. Opening morning, we got bulls bugling.
God, opening
100
morning
yards
is like
off.
Christmas.
Yeah, it is.
Cows around us all night, and bugles occasionally. So should be a good morning. Looking forward to it. All right, we got a bull bugling right over here. I don't know, maybe 400 or 500 yards. A little bit of dark timber in this ravine, but I know there's a bunch of cows there too. We're not going to go right after them. We're going to stay on this side, stay a bit high, see if we can spot, see how big a bull he is. And I'm sure there's more bulls where it opens up a little further up. So this morning we're just going to try and spot.
So these elk are feeding down at night because the water meadows are in the bottoms.
They are,
And then
yeah.
in the mornings they're going to slowly work their way up.
Right now,
Yep.
so
Okay.
Yep.
let's do it.
Left side is dark timber and steep, very steep.
God, it's beautiful there, Bill. That
It
is
is.
elk country.
Keep sounding off every 5 minutes or so on the dark timber side. It's like 8:30, so he's probably working up to bed somewhere. Gonna try and get eyes on him here. Maybe put a stalk on him. He's a shooter bull. He's big.
They're so excited, Bill.
Try and put my moccasins on here. Sneak on him. I think he's just too quiet to get up there with boots on.
What are those?
Those are stockasins.
I've heard of those. Are those pretty sick?
Yeah, my daughter made me a pair of moccasins that I've killed 3 bulls in.
Okay.
And
that's legit.
But they didn't come up past the ankles, so then I saw stockasins come up past the ankles. I'm like, oh,
I might need to get a pair of
Might
those.
need
They
to
don't
try
weigh
those out.
anything and put them in your pack. And
yeah, they're light.
Pretty good look at his antlers. He's a pretty good bull. I had a broadside shot, but there was some brush in the way, so I moved around behind. Had a steep quartering away opportunity at 49 yards. Decided not to take it. A little worried I just get one along at that really steep angle, but also it wasn't. I think he was about 300-inch bull. Really good bull, but there are bigger ones around, so Yeah, I thought he walked through the opening for an open broadside shot, but he didn't. He kept just moving off. He's with a couple other little bulls. We followed him up, I guess, 0.4 miles so far. Still my moccasins, feet are getting a little sore.
Oh, shoot.
And he's a ways.
4 miles in stockings? No, thank you. So you're not making a sound. You're literally
I
sneaking
think I said
in.
0.4 miles.
Oh.
before, but yeah.
Been good, so
And
Yeah.
you're not calling. You're sneaking in.
Yeah, so I like drop my boots, put my moccasins on if I'm going to try and be quiet and stalk in on bulls.
I think that's the way to kill a big bull.
Yeah, we're not calling at all. We're just hearing bugles and moving in so we can see them. And
big bull bugling right down the bottom. Gotta drop down in there quick.
so we end up working up the hill and then down. It's like I think it's 1,400 foot from top to bottom. We were up and down that thing a number of times.
Oh, you're at full draw here.
Yeah, so there's nice bull in this dark timber down there. And I'm looking through. I see there's some branches, but I'm thinking I'm going to clear them. But I could see the main branches, but there was all these little branches that I didn't see, and I clipped one of those, and the arrow just sailed way over
Yeah,
its
you
back.
knew it immediately. You're using a Scott. What release was that? Index.
It's the Scott Shark. Yeah.
Yep.
Wrist strap release.
Okay.
I've been hunting with wrist strap release for over 40 years. Well,
Yeah.
close to 40 years now, so
Yeah.
it's
I'm probably using one this year for elk. Just for elk.
This morning at day 2.
Yeah.
It's about half hour before first light or so. We've got a bull bugling. We've been hearing him from camp for a while here. I think he's a little one. We're gonna head about a mile up the drainage here to where we know some big ones were hanging out yesterday. So here we go.
So you guys able to get your water refilled at night at your camp?
yeah, we camped right near the creek, so
Cool.
that was nice. That's what I hate about camping on top of the ridge is you're so limited on
Passed by
water.
some
Yeah.
small bulls on the way here. I think there's 4 of them. Got little bulls on the hillside. We won't buy those. We're going up to where we left a bunch of cows last night. Some bulls are bugling. Looking up there, we see a few big elk. Too far to tell what they are, but we're gonna head up there. That's right where we left the cows last night. So hopefully get into a big bull this morning.
How old is this burn, Bill? Ish. Like,
What's that?
how old is the burn? It's like a couple years old, decade.
I want to say
decade?
maybe like 8 years old.
Oh,
something
okay.
like that. So yeah, there's a lot of little trees and stuff
That
growing
little
back
bull
through.
Come through. Came by at 35 yards. So not quite what I'm looking for yet on day 2, but fun to have them come by anyway.
I don't love to like camp in burns that are like that old because if a windstorm comes through and
Yeah.
like that's always on my radar is where to set camp and not in old burns.
Just bugling
Yeah.
started coming
I
down.
don't know if guys ever think about that.
Across the other side of the valley here. Really steep burn area, pretty open. Trying to get a better look at his antlers right now. He's a 6-point, pretty decent bull, I think. But I want to get a better look at him before I try and make a move on him here. So he's in a clump of brush right now, just waiting for him to move.
That was a big bull. That's
Your
like a
eyes
three-
were pretty wide there. You could
That's
tell.
like a 340 bull.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Because you're a Wisconsin guy, have you always shot Matthews?
I have for a long time. I mean, I started before Matthews was a bow, I think.
Yeah.
Bow hunting, but
Yeah.
I mean, I shot like dart. I shot a couple different bows prior, but I've shot Matthews for many, many years. I did get some Hoyts and shoot those for a few years, and I like Hoyts and Matthews both. I think
Yeah.
they both have good engineering teams. So.
I just saw you shooting that V3X, and I've told people that's like probably one of my all-time favorite Matthews bows ever made.
Yeah, I've kept that one long as my
I
backup.
gave that away, and I wish I had, and I'll be honest. Oh, very vocal cows.
Yeah, the Matthews is just deader in the hand. You know, to shoot a 75-pound bow, 30-inch draw, 520 grain arrow, and have that thing come out and the bow not move. That's some incredible mechanical engineering to me.
You would know.
Yeah.
Now, Marty's a really good elk caller, like really, really good.
Still
Was it
morning,
ever
day
tempting to
3.
have him call for you and film, which is hard to do
Came up
both?
the valley to where we left the
I don't think he
couple
called
last
at all,
night,
did you?
And we saw some elk across an open burn area. There's one
I think we
good
called
bull
once to try and
there,
locate
bunch
this
of
bull that I'd
cows.
lost, just to get him
But
to
then we heard
bugle
bull
once,
bugle
you know.
on this side
But
in the dark
They're
timber.
pretty
my-
hip to
Thought
call.
My
huh?
theory in general, I used to call more,
climbed
and
up,
as I started calling less, I was killing more.
800 feet.
You know, I don't like them to
Elevation got
alert
their
them I'm
low.
there at all.
Started
Same.
coming in on 'em.
Ideally, I just hear them,
But the
see them,
cows had
whatever,
turned
go
and
after them, getting
decided to go
close,
back. So we ended up walking
close enough
right
to
into
shoot
the
them.
cows.
Absolutely.
That's my theory.
So then before they saw us, but we had cows from 20 to 60 yards, a bunch of them. And then when they went back behind us, they winded us.
So we had, I don't know,
Dang
100
it.
cows or something.
We'd heard the
We
bull
dogged
bugle
these
on the
things
other
for
side, but never saw him. So
an hour or something,
we
where
let
we
that
just
cool
had
down
cows
a
in
bit,
sight the
maybe
whole
cross
time, heard
across, so
bugling.
another bull
Yeah.
stealing
And that can
and
make it
then
hard to get to that
maybe keep
bull if you got too many
That's
eyes.
too many almost.
that
Yeah,
bull was on
and
the
but
side.
we were doing it up until when the wind
But we're
shifted,
cut that
Yeah.
great this morning.
and they cut back then. Yeah.
Got 2 bulls bugling. It's about 3 o'clock maybe in the afternoon. We've been hanging out kind of near where we bedded some this morning, waiting for them to get up. So we're 2 bugles 2 times now. We're gonna move over a little closer, see if we can get some eyes on them.
The beautiful thing about this place is there's bugling all day long.
I love that.
So you just go after the next bugle and go stalk in, check it out. And sometimes the terrain was just like deadfall, too thick and too dry. I can't get to that bull. I have to wait for him to come out. But
Yep.
if the terrain was right, I was stalking in a bull's bugling kind of all day.
Yeah, with that style of hunting, you really do need them to be vocal
Yeah.
if you're going to be able to slip in. Or the more vocal they are, the
We had a group of cows.
easier to be to sneak in, I should say, when they're distracted.
Yeah.
It sounded like a big bull bugling way up on top, way up above them.
We climbed all the way up to the
I
top.
think he was right here.
Oh, man.
Standing there.
This might have been like 2,000 feet because we were way up in the
We
basin
climbed
at this
all
point.
the way to the top,
Oh, you're way up there.
Yeah.
1,500 foot, maybe a little more than that.
That's going to add up, man, every day.
Up. He was screaming at us. We were in the creek bottom, sneaking up, but I know we were pretty close. But I think he turned and went with the cows. We came up over the top where he's bugling from, and
This
he
thing
was
was
gone. Here's his bed.
screaming, bugling, and I think it maybe heard us coming
We
like we were in
climb
a
up.
bull.
And he took them over the other backside?
Took 'em up
1,000
over the
feet
top.
now, because we're counting the bottom. So, but we're gonna the bull bugling down towards the bottom, so we'll head down there and hunt our way back.
Yeah, just gone to the next one, you know.
Wow. What a special tag.
Yeah.
So beautiful there.
It is.
These cows weren't here, I'd be going right now.
That was that 340 bull right there.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, there,
Yep.
there he is.
He's a dandy. I got to give Marty another shout out. The color grade on this is just perfect.
He's the master. So this bull I've been on for 2 days. I've been seeing him for 2 days. I decided I'm just going to go after this bull. There was so many cows the night before.
And
When I
you're
tried to get
staying
in
in the
close.
creek bottom, working up, using that for your terrain,
Yeah.
for cover and
So I
sound.
left him there the night before. The next morning I came up the creek bottom. I spotted him in there. And it's open. The only way I'm going to get to this thing is just crawling right up this creek bottom. So that's what I did.
I think that's so awesome. Covers your scent, covers your sound,
Yeah.
and keeps you
Yeah.
hidden.
I pop up over and peek, and there's like 8 cows in this bull quartering away, feeding. And then one of the cows sees me. Like, I got like a few seconds to shoot before they blow out.
He's down.
And
that
what
fast.
you don't see in the film is, yeah,
Look at that.
I shot this bull. I saw him run a little ways and drop. A nice 6-point bull, but he wasn't wasn't the 340 bull that I thought I was sneaking on.
Oh, you shot a satellite?
Yeah.
That's
mean,
a nice satellite.
It's a nice bull. I'm totally happy. Anytime you get a bull with a bow and arrow, it's incredible.
That was a poke of a shot too. Dang, and the arrows all the way out, just beautiful shot.
Came out,
Great
seat porting
execution.
away, came out to the far side shoulder bone, and most of the arrows sticking out there.
Oh, are you getting breakfast here? Oh, you are.
And they had like golden trout in that stream. They're beautiful fish. They're all over the place. And Marty made a little. He had brought some line, made a little rod. We caught some fish.
That's cool. What a memorable hunt.
Yeah.
And how long did it take you to get that bull out, man?
Do you remember, Marty? I think we packed
so many
it.
raspberries right now. We got to stop.
I think we leapfrogged it. Did it one day, didn't we?
Load up with some
Oh yeah,
sugar
that's right.
And you got wild
We
raspberries?
took one load out that afternoon up on top, and that night we came back to camp with the other load the next morning, and then so a day and a half we packed it out.
That's brutal. That's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. I think there's a lot of cool stuff in this hunt. I will say, like, the sneaking in on elk that are really vocal is awesome and is difficult, but I do think you'll get better shot selection, shot opportunities because they don't know you're there versus alerting an animal and calling them in, and they come in looking for something. It's pretty tricky to get that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very window. It's very rushed. Things aren't always great when you have like that rush, that sense of urgency where maybe that bull was just feeding, you pulled back. Yeah, the cow saw you, but he didn't, and you're able to let that pin settle and get that clean break.
Yeah, I used to do a lot more of that aggressive bugling a bull, go challenge him, bugle at him, and I feel like it's kind of an all or nothing. And I'll still do it maybe last dish effort or helping a friend try and get a bull somewhere. It's fun.
It's fun,
but really our odds with doing that were maybe like 10%.
Mm-hmm.
It's just more often than not, you're forcing that bull to do something right there. Either he's going to run up his cows and go or just take off, or he's going to come in and fight you. And so you're forcing something to happen right there, and the odds of it working out just aren't that high generally. That's been my experience. Now, it can work out. And, this is also Colorado. It's a heavily hunted area. Just bugling at them, more often than not, they're probably just going to round up their cows and head out, But anyways, it's something I still do once in a while if the situation's right. But I feel like if I know there are elk there in this basin, and I'm just going to hunt them and try and get the right opportunity to shoot them, not push them out and have to go find a new basin with new elk in it.
Well, what I want to finish this pod was, Bill, how old are you, man?
56.
Years young. Okay. Time goes by fast. Your kids are out of college, right?
Right.
Do you have grandkids?
No.
Not yet. Okay.
Not yet.
So you're 56 years old, man. You just did the ultimate backcountry hunt in Colorado, like super varsity level terrain, over 12,000 feet. All your entire camp is on your back. You and Marty packed that on the day half. Let's look down the road here a little bit. Let's go 10 years from now. So now you're 66. Are you on a trajectory where you could still do that hunt at age 66? And if so, this is the last thing we're doing on the pod. What are you doing to sustain that trajectory?
Yeah, that's my goal to do. I love this. Nothing I love better than backcountry elk hunting, backpacking in deep, no other hunters, and getting into the elk. So, yeah, I hope to do this for, until I'm 100. No, that's probably stretching it, but
maybe not.
10, 20 years, I think it's very possible. But yeah, stay fit. It's something I try to exercise every day. It's hard at bear camp or whitetail camp, to be honest.
Yep.
I put on a little, get a little soft.
Yeah.
In the wintertime. But in a lot of cardio, strength training is important. But for me, especially when I got over 40, when I think it was maybe 30. I was in my young 30s when I just decided I'm going to start training like a nut here. And when I was 40, I was in better shape than I was 20.
Oh,
you could not keep up with.
Yep.
Well, you could maybe. But
maybe not.
Most guys I got to the point where I could hike with a pack on straight up the hill and not stop to,
Yep.
breathe. And that was my goal. And this, at 11,000 feet or whatever.
Damn.
I mean, I could hike. But I was also doing a little bit too much, as I got over 40 doing the squats and deadlifts and things with the hiking, I was kind of overdoing it.
Yep.
And I was often getting some like lower back, overuse type injuries. And I really backed off the heavier weights, the squats and the deadlifts and stuff. I'll do like, dumbbell squats or whatever, but for me, that's what I had to do because I was kind of looking at longevity at this
Yes.
point, right? Like take a little bit off on the weights. If I'm going to go hike with a training pack, there's times when I put 245-pound plates and go up a steep hill.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessary.
No. I do a lot of the hiking with lightweight, 20-25. Once in a while, I'll step it up a little bit, but I do a lot of my training with like 30 pounds on.
Yep.
Now, I know when I pack an elk out, it's probably going to be 80 pounds.
Yeah. And that's one event.
Yeah.
You'll be okay.
Yeah.
I like that. And you're doing the strength training mainly just to maintain the soft tissue, to just maintain the muscle density, but you got to have your heart and lungs and legs. That is no denying. That's what elk hunting is.
Hike up and down steep hills so that your knees, your ankles, your hips are all used to that off balance, harder hiking up and down. I feel like that's pretty huge. Doing a lot of hiking. I know everybody doesn't have mountains in their backyard to hike, but I think that really helps me do a lot of hiking because I don't think there's anything better to do to prepare for something than doing exactly what it is you're going to be doing, right?
The end. Specificity.
Yeah, and you can't always do that. But I do a lot of hiking. But I'm looking at longevity, try to eat healthy, don't drink a lot, have a beer once in a while, but, alcohol is a lot of alcohol is just going to turn you. That's one thing when I started just working out more. Growing up in Wisconsin, having a few beers, every Friday night or whatever was the typical thing.
Mm-hmm.
But Olympic athletes aren't probably doing that, right? Because they're trying to get their body to the next level. So, really cutting back on the alcohol and rarely having any really at this point.
I respect that.
But I think those are a few things that I'm doing to try and hunt forever.
That's cool. Well, guys, we're here again at Eastern Sky Guiding. We're in Eastern Saskatchewan, home of the biggest bears I've ever seen in my life and skulls. Thank you for getting me squared away and getting me in with these guys. I do want to give Rich and Marla a shout out. They're amazing people. If you guys need a good place to bear hunt, Bill's come back here year over year for a reason. My best bear to date here. Incredible experience, incredible people. Check them out. Bill's got one more night on his hunt, so we'll see how it goes. It is hunting. It's not a slam dunk. And the last thing I wanted to say, and this is not about elk hunting, is like this is a baited hunt. And to me, this might be the most ethical way to hunt bears. I'm going to tell you why right now. We got a guy who won the hunt. He's here. His name's Cody. He's a dentist, great guy. He's never bear hunted before. And once I shot my bear, I've been sitting with him, and he's had Riley with him, and that's my nephew. And Riley's got some bear hunting experience, man, like certainly a lot more than Cody. And there are two sows that anybody would shoot if they were spotting and stalking or had a rifle.
Yeah.
And they're not with their cubs very much. And we've been hunting this spot for 3 days straight. And this sow will come in without her 2-year-old cub. She hasn't kicked him out yet. She will any day now. She's over 300 pounds, and she does not fit the mold of a sow.
Yeah.
Like, her wrists are thick. Her shoulders are big. She's filled out through her chest. She's tall. She's heavy. But it's a she, and the only reason we know that is because we are able to study and, quite honestly, look at her anatomy. Not just physical, but I can actually see that she's still lactating, and things like that. And I saw her, she peed, so I got to see how she peed. I was like, okay, don't shoot that sow. Most guys would have shot that bear.
Yeah, when I first came here, I'd only hunted bears a few years in Colorado. I usually just get a tag when I'm elk hunting, and I'll do a spot and stalk, and I've killed a couple bears that way. And I never thought I'd ever want to hunt bears over bait. It just sounded like, it doesn't sound too cool.
It doesn't.
But my brother wanted to go on a bear hunt, so I contacted Clay Newcomb, actually, and he connected me with these guys.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, we'll go there. My brother wants to. I'll go check out what this is all about. But what I loved about it is that I saw 20 bears or more that week, different bears up close. So you get to I learned so much more about bears and what's a boar and a sow, and what age classes each of these bears. So I learned so much, and then caught a glimpse of a giant bear, one of these 400 plus pound bears. I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah.
look at the size of that. So that's why I keep coming back, is it's exciting to see those giant bears, and it's just fun to watch a bunch of bears.
It is insane.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed every sit. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in. If you were just listening to the pod and you were like, what were they watching? Check out our YouTube channel. We have the podcast there as well. This is my good friend Iron Will Bill. If you're in the market for trying some different broadheads, check out his. I strongly recommend looking at their single bevels. They have a solid. They have the wides. They have vented. They also make arrows. They have knives. They do all sorts of stuff. Their Instagram is at IronWill. Is it _ Outfitters?
Iron Will Outfitters, one word.
All one word. They have a YouTube channel, and you can also check out the website, and we'll leave links in the video description below. Separation is in the preparation. Oh.
Can I say one more thing?
Oh, yeah. What do you got?
This film that we were watching is also in the full draw. It made the full draw film tour.
Oh, it did?
So people want to go watch it.
Yeah.
Check. I think there's 50 locations throughout the U.S. They can go watch our elk hunting film at the full draw
It's
film
out this
tour.
year?
Yeah. It's out. It's right now. They're
very
showing
cool.
it right now in theaters.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
And what's the guy's name who runs that full draw film tour? Is it Jace? Yeah. Shout out to him. He's been still doing that, and I think that's really cool to bring bow hunting to all these communities, and to be featured in there is something special.
Yeah, we picked one of, I don't know if there's 10 films or so that they pick out of hundreds to show, so that was pretty cool.
But Marty did a good job. All right, guys.
Yeah.
We'll catch you on the next one.